Welcome back to my channel, That Lit Witch, and today I'm going to be taking you on a journey into fairy wings. In this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how I made my first two pairs of fairy wings and also taking you along for the ride while I make a new pair, which is going to be a pink and black pair for an upcoming fairy outfit. Now, before I dive into all of the tools and materials that I use to make my fairy wings, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the first two pair. So my very first pair of fairy wings that I made was my Pixie set, which is for my Tinkerbell cosplay. And I am still incredibly shocked at how viral this video has gone. It is in the millions of views right now, and it still is going up every day. I'm very happy about that, but I'm still like, I get very anxious about it. I don't know why, but kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people really like this. And I got a lot of compliments at the Ren Fair for the fairy wings. I did make a very short, like 1 minute long sort of behind the scenes. It wasn't really a tutorial, but more of a behind the scenes of how I made the fairy wings. And a lot of people were like, can you do something a little bit more lengthy? Can you actually like go through the process? So that's why for this video, I'm going to be going through the process. And I started doing that for the second pair for you guys. However, I accidentally deleted most of the footage. And yeah, so we are going to start completely from scratch with a brand new set, and I'm going to walk you through everything along the way. So this is my very first set of fairy wings, and I really love how it came out. I am very surprised when I'm using fantasy film or iridescent film, which is what this is. It is not cellophane, it is an iridescent film for this particular set, but it changes colors once it's been heated. And you can totally see, like, this actually started out very, very translucent and almost more blue. And now it is a very pretty green when it's shimmering in the light. It came out really, really well. So for this tutorial, I followed the Fancy Fairy Wings tutorial that is on YouTube, and I'll link it down below so you can go and follow it. Her original tutorial called for some materials that are either some of them were no longer being made, and other ones were a little bit, she actually came out like later on and had said that certain ones were not as good as other ones, but she kept the tutorial and everything up. So it's a little bit outdated for some things, but the techniques that I used for making these fairy wings are very, very similar, but I have changed up some things just to match more like my style. So here are my butterfly fairy wings, which turned out way bigger than I had anticipated. I'm still a little bit like, oh my gosh, these turned out just ridiculously large, but they look great and I'm still really proud of them. So these were inspired by this guy right here. This is my little friend. It's a blue butterfly, blue pansy butterfly, I think is what it's called. And the blue in it is just absolutely gorgeous. So when I was looking for iridescent film that I could use for this one here, I found this stuff. It's a fantasy film, and it's from the company Art Glitter, and you can kind of see it. It's like a really pretty blue. This one is called Caspian Sea, and I thought for sure that this was going to stay this color. It doesn't. When the film gets heated, it does change color like my other one did. So this one, it has this really pretty green in one light, but then when you turn it, you can kind of see a little bit of the blue coming out, and just depending on the direction of how you have it sitting, it changes a lot. So you can kind of see it changing. There's a little bit more blue on this side. There's green when you have it straight ahead, and then the back. So you can see from the back, it's actually much more solid color. It's not as transparent as my other one is, which on one hand I really like because it makes it really bright on the front where you can really see it. But on the back side, I do wish that it was a little bit more transparent. I mean, in some light you can kind of see that it's you know, to see the black all the way through it, but when it's shiny just straight ahead, it is a little bit more kind of solid, but that's okay. Now the other thing that I did that was a little bit different is I spray painted my Bristol board black. So once everything got cut, I went ahead and took it outside and used a black metallic Rustoleum spray paint and spray painted both sides of the Bristol board, and it came out looking really, really good. The reason I wanted to use a metallic is I thought maybe some of the glitter would show through. It doesn't too much but I think it still gives it a really cool look, having everything all black, and it mimics the butterfly a little bit more. So depending on the lighting and where you're standing and whatnot, this has like totally different colors. And what's really, really cool is on the back side, because it is basically like a solid reflective surface, in the sunlight, when your back is turned towards the sun, it creates this really pretty glow effect and will bounce light almost like a disco ball, like all around you, and it's so pretty. So I'm really happy with this stuff. I am going to be trying something very similar to this, but with a different vein structure for the fairy wings that we're going to be making today. So before starting any project, we always make sure that we have all of the tools and materials that we need to complete the project in advance. Nothing like getting through halfway and realizing that something is missing. So now we are going to talk about all of my tools and materials. Now, one of the main tools that I use for making my fairy wings is this beast right here. This is a Cricut 3 machine, and it is awesome. It was pricey, and so far I've only used it to make fairy wings, but it has saved me a lot of time when it comes to cutting out the veins. Now, when it comes to cutting out the veins are actually made from 4-ply Bristol board, also known as vellum sheets, and they are a little bit hard to come by. Places like Blick Art Supply has them, but they are oftentimes out of stock for specifically the 4-ply Bristol board in the size that you need. And yeah, I have had very little luck with them getting it in stock when they say they will get it in stock. I waited at one point for like 3 months just to get a couple of sheets, and I gave up. So I started calling around. There is a place local to me here in Los Angeles that does have access to a large supply of the 4-ply Bristol board. So I'll link them down below. It's a company called Graphades, and they are fantastic. They are great to work with, and that's now where I go to get all of my Bristol board for this, and I buy them in like large packs. In order to cut through the Bristol board, I also need this, which is a deep cut blade for the Cricut machine. So this is going to cut through the thick sheets, but it's also going to cut through stuff like leather and cardboard and things like that. So it's a little bit pricey as well. This I think is like $60. I think I paid around $340 or $350 for my Cricut machine, and it is an investment, but it does save a lot of time, because otherwise, in order to cut the Bristol board, you would be sitting there with like an X-Acto knife and having to really be extremely careful with it. And frankly, like the safety precautions of all of that, I would rather just spend the money and get the Cricut machine. So I definitely recommend, if you have access to it and you want to do stuff like this, the Cricut machine is the way to go. As for the other tools that I use when I'm creating my fairy wings, a good old pair of scissors, obviously. I'm also going to need this, which is just a heat gun that I got on Amazon, and I use this when it comes time to bond my iridescent film or my fantasy film to my vinyl and sandwich that on both sides of my Bristol board. And then to cut everything out. So once you have your sheets on there, now it comes time to actually cut around the edges to create basically the edge of your wing. And you don't want to use just a pair of scissors for that, because it runs the risk of your two pieces opening up at some point. So you kind of want to cauterize it, right? So you use a soldering iron, and this is my trusty soldering iron that I use for this as well as my jewelry making. I did find out the hard way that there is a lot of vapor and a lot of fumes that come off from the vinyl and the iridescent film when it is heated, and when it is, especially when you are basically burning the edges. So I also have this, which is my trusty respirator, and I use this when I am at the very end stages of cutting everything out. As for the materials themselves, this is the wire that I use. This is a 3mm wire, and it's basic hobby wire that I think a lot of people probably use when they're sculpting and they're creating figurines and things like that. But this allows your wings to be entirely posable and also provide a lot of structure and support. So I use this both for the veins for the top and bottom of each wing, and also for the back brace itself. So once I have my wings cut out, I sit and will go through and basically run a piece of this along the sides to get the shape and the structure that I need, and then I have to wrap it. So this is floral tape. It comes in a few different colors like green, white, brown, and black, and green. And I just wrap. So this is probably the most time-consuming part of this entire process. is wrapping the wire itself. So this has got a little bit of sort of a waxiness to it, and I just go through and wrap every single piece of wire before I start really working with it. So that's this, and then once that part is done, then I have to tape my top and bottom part of each wing. So for example, there is a piece here and a piece here, and I wrap them at the very base with electrical tape. So electrical tape, believe it or not, you can get in a lot of different colors too. So I have white and I have black currently. I may try some different colors in the future, but all of this is just wrapped with electrical tape, and it just works really, really well. So I don't have to use like duct tape and things like that. So I wrap the very base of this with this, and then next is the fantasy film. So at this point, each of the 4 wings is made up of 2 pieces of the wiring, and now it is time to put everything together and sandwich it. This is the part that drives me the most crazy because it is a little bit tricky, and I'm sure you'll see. I end up having to use like my entire body to manipulate and get these to sandwich just perfectly, because it's very easy for them to wrinkle or for there to be a fold or something, and to get it completely smooth right away is not the easiest thing. So I've already shown you my blue fantasy film from Art Glitter. This is the pink, and it's actually called Strawberry. It's one of their newer colors, and I'm pretty excited to see what this looks like when it gets heated up, if it's going to have a lot of green or if it's going to turn more blue or purple. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about this one. So once the fantasy film is cut and laid down, then the Bristol board goes on top, then the wire goes on top of that, and then on top of everything goes this vinyl. This is a heat and bond, or it's called heat and bond. It's an iron-on vinyl, and this is what keeps everything nice and smooth and keeps your fantasy film and whatnot from crinkling up. And it also protects it and keeps it nice and smooth, and yeah, it makes it a little bit more durable and everything too. So this stuff here is a little bit of a bear because it is sticky on one side, and you don't want it to wrinkle or fold over. You don't want your fantasy film to wrinkle or move at all, and it has to be just perfect, because once it's down, it takes a little bit of effort to pull it back up. You can, and I have done that many times because I get a wrinkle and I'm like, no, it has to be smooth. So it's a little bit of a pain, and I have to use like my feet, my knees, my arms, and everything, like crouched down on the ground to try to get it nice and smooth and all of that. If I had an extra set of hands around to help me with it, I'm sure it would make things a lot easier. Half the time it's just me. So yeah, but this one is a gloss finish, and I'll link this as well. I used to just buy this from the company itself, but I have found it on Amazon, so it's a little bit easier to get. So I'll link this up down below. So that is the basics for all of the tools and materials that is needed. If you don't have a heat gun and you happen to have an iron or something like that, you just want to make sure that you put down a silicone sheet or something like that on top of it to heat everything up. If you don't want to do that, then they also have the Cricut press, which I know a lot of people really like, and that seems to work really well for something like this. Just make sure again that you have the Cricut silicone mat that goes on top to help transfer the heat and not burn, obviously your vinyl and your cellophane. I really like using my heat gun because I feel like I have a little bit more control over everything, and I can actually see when something is either burning or getting too hot. It just, for me, I feel more in control of my materials if I'm using a heat gun. So just some things to keep in mind for that. But yeah, now that we've kind of gone over everything, let's get to work on a new set of fairy wings. So this is my 4-ply Bristol board, and it comes in these large sheets that are way too big, so I have to cut them down a little bit. They do come in other sizes, but they end up being too small for the size wings that I'm going to be working on, and I'm trying to maximize as much space as I can because I want my wings to be nice and big. This is the 4-ply Bristol board. Again, 2-ply will probably work, but I have found that it is just way too thin, and yeah, the structural integrity of it is going to flop. It's probably going to get ruined in the wind, so I get the 4-ply Bristol board instead. It also goes by vellum board. It is a little bit pricey. I pay $8 a sheet, and that's when I buy it in bulk from the local company here in Los Angeles called Graph-Aids. You can definitely find it on Blick when they have it available, and I think it's between like $9 and $10 plus shipping. So for me, it's a little bit cheaper to get it local, but you can totally find it other places. Because I have 4 wings and I'm trying to maximize my space and what my Cricut cutter is capable of, I end up having to get 4 different sheets. So right now I am just tracing out my template, and I'm going to cut it, and we are going to pop it in the Cricut machine. So I forgot to mention that the other thing you are definitely going to need are the Cricut cutting mats. These mats are 12 by 24 inches long, which is why I'm cutting this out to be exactly that length. They have a sticky side and they basically just grip your paper. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of Scotch tape to tape these things down. So for getting your fairy wing vane files, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Number 1, so you don't have any issues with copyright infringement, you can totally get a picture of a butterfly or other wings found naturally in nature and trace over them in something like Procreate, save it as a CVG file, import it into your Cricut machine canvas here, and off you go. The other thing that you can do is go to Etsy, and Etsy has some really great ones from this company called ATP Textures, which is where I've gotten all of these ones here, like my Pixie Fairy Wings, and they do offer commercial licenses if you want to use their files for any reason outside of like personal use. So here are the Butterfly Fairy Wings, and I'll link these ones down below if you want to go and check those out. Here are my Pixie Fairy Wings here, and today I think we're gonna go with, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of this one, but this one may be fun to try too. So let's see what we can do with these. So a couple things to keep in mind when these files import, they are massive and you have to do a little bit of rotation and manipulation, scaling and things to get it to fit. So because I want to maximize as much space as possible, and my mat on my Cricut cutter is it can only accept something that is under 12 inches and no more than 22 inches, I bring my file like right up to the tip and is literally as far as it can possibly go. And then on the next page, because I'm using a different type of material, I'm going to show you a couple of things to keep in mind when you are, if you decide to do this for yourself. There are some parameters that you have to set, and it is not native in the system, so you have to do a little bit of manipulation. I'm going to show you that next. So here's where things get a little bit tricky. Now, when you're choosing your materials, I've already got this one saved here and bookmarked because I've edited it and I have it all set up the way that I need to. But you're gonna have to tell the system what type of material you're using. And they have a lot of them listed here natively, and they do have a Bristol board, but it is a 2-ply Bristol board and you need it to have a little bit of a deeper cut in order for it to actually use the deep cut blade. So what I've done is gone in here. I have this one, which is a cereal box. This is the closest that I could find. And then you have to go into the material settings. And this is where you have to edit a few things to get it just right. So underneath of cereal box, all the way down here, cereal, there it is, cereal box. So I have it set to using it, it's already preset for a deep point blade, but I have increased this setting all the way to 350, and this is the cut pressure. So, and then also the multi-cut. So I have it passing on my board 3 times using a deep point blade, and I've pushed this all the way over to 350. That is literally as far for an edit that I'm able to do. Some people have said that the cut pressure should actually be more than that. I've never found it needing to be more than 350, so I just keep it as that. And then I go back and just save it, and then we go to the next step. So now that we have our cereal box chosen, it shows the types of tools that you need to load. We've already told it that we're using a deep cut blade in clamp B, and it is now ready to feed the board into the machine. So here we just feed it in, we press the little button, and it loads up. And just a heads up, you need a lot of space because this has to feed both all the way to the back and then all the way to the front. And then once it detects everything that it needs to detect, it will start, and it will actually start doing the cutting for us. And now it should start blinking. There we go. And now it is going to begin the cutting process. And these take a little bit of time. Each wing, I think, takes probably 20 to 30 minutes to completely cut, but it comes out perfect. And off it goes. So we'll check back with that one in just a little bit. So the wing, the one that I got to print, actually came out looking pretty good, but it's a lot smaller than what I kind of wanted. I wanted something like as big as my other wings, and these are more like the size of my pixie wings, which is great and everything, but it wasn't quite what I was going for. So my first attempt with it, unfortunately, was a failed attempt. And the reason why it failed was because it ended up with a little bit of a paper jam here, likely because my sticky mat, this, like I said before, this mat is sticky, so it keeps everything down. However, this is a standard mat, and I just found out that there is a heavy mat, which is you're supposed to use for cardstock, and it has a little bit more of a grip to it. So this has been used several times, and it's losing a lot of its sticky, and I think that's why these are not sticking like down very well. So I'm a little bit miffed about that, because this was a piece now that I can't use. I can't even like really salvage it. So I did try it one more time, and this one came out pretty good, but I ended up having to baby it, and this entire wing took almost an hour to print. So I am going to keep this, and I'm going to order some more Bristol board and keep at this one. But I wanted to be able to still save enough that I could still do a set of wings for this video. So I have a different set that has a little less intricate vein work in it. So yeah, this is like super intricate. It's beautiful. But yeah, it's almost like lace. And this one is a little bit bigger when you actually get to see it. It's a little bit bigger, kind of like how my other fairy wings are. So let's give this another shot. So now that my wings are all cut out, I'm getting ready to spray paint them. I'm doing it outside, of course, because it's better ventilation, plus they dry a lot quicker. I'm just using an old piece of like padding that I got out of a big box. And yeah, so we're gonna spray paint it. This is the stuff I'm using for my wings to paint them black. I wanted them to have a little bit of a metallic look. So this is just Rustoleum metallic spray paint in oil rubbed bronze. It actually looks a lot more black than bronze, which I really like. This thing broke on me the last time I used it, so it drips everywhere, which is why I'm wearing gloves in order to do this. So here we go. So now that the veins of the wings are done, they have been painted, they have dried, it is time to add the actual support system and the structure for each of the wings. So in order to do this, I'm going to be taking the wire, and I'm going to have a piece that's going to go on top and underneath each of the wings, and it's going to come down as like an L shape. Once that part is done for each of the wings, then I am going to wrap it with floral tape and then combine them just at the brace portion with the electrical tape. Then the fun part begins. I get to actually put the film on, and that's what's going to create all of the color. So underneath is going to be the fantasy film in whatever color I want. In this case, we're using pink. And then on top is going to be the magic, really like the magic that puts this whole thing together and really gives it that nice smooth look, is the heat and bond vinyl. So once that's done, I heat it up with my heat gun and then cut it out. And then once all of those are complete, it's time to actually combine the whole structure of the wings together with the electrical tape and a little bit more wire for the back bracing. So let's go ahead and get started. So I got done with all of the wrapping of the wire, and I went ahead and started adding the electrical tape to the brace for each of the wings. And unfortunately, I am totally out of black electrical tape, but I have plenty of white. So this is the brace now. It's all nice and wrapped, and I did it for all of my wings. So now the time has come that I get to add the color. So basically I'm going to sandwich this just like this in between the vinyl and the fantasy film, and this is the part that gets a little bit tricky, so we're gonna see what happens. So the cool thing about this fantasy film is when it comes in a roll like this, it's actually already doubled over, so I really only need to cut twice and I'll have enough for all 4 wings. So right now I'm just rolling it out, and then I'm going to place my wing in the center to see what size I need, and then we're going to start sandwiching it with the vinyl. And the vinyl is the hard part because it's sticky on one side, so if you screw up you have to like pull everything apart, and then it like messes all this up, and I'm sure you'll see what I mean. But yeah, for now we're just going to see what size we really need, and I want to try to be conservative with it because this stuff takes a while to get here and it is a little bit expensive. So set that on the side. Okay, so we have this guy here now. Separate the pieces. There. The reason this gets tricky is because the wire kind of wants to move on you. You really have to sort of get it to stay in place. There we go. So one thing that I have figured out with making these wings is that one roll of this vinyl will last for one full set of wings with a little teeny tiny bit left over that I really can't do much with. So, and that's if I'm maxing out my space on my Cricut machine for the size of these veins. So if you're making a set of wings that have like six pairs basically, or three pairs or 6 wings on one, like, you know, wingspan, then you're definitely going to need more of this stuff. So just keep that in mind if you are making your own. So here we go. This is kind of the fun part because you get to actually see the sort of transformation happen with a lot of this. So let's get going. And by the way, I'm just using this on a low setting. I'm not blasting it with a high heat. There's really no need to, and this goes pretty quick. So we are officially in the home stretch for these wings at this point. So I have my wings out. They are now nice and heated and bonded, and now it's time to cut them out. So I have my soldering iron on right now. I have a silicone mat under me. I have my window open, and I'm going to be putting on my post-apocalyptic gear to protect my lungs so I don't have an asthma attack while I'm in here doing this. So here we go. So now that these are all done, now we need to take some more electrical tape and I'm going to start wrapping these, create one more piece with the metal to finish off this brace, just to give a little extra structure here, and then combine them all and see if we like it as is, or I may actually add some of the flowers, some pink flowers to this section here just to cover some of this up, and it's an idea I've had for a while to do with my fairy wings. So yeah, but we're almost done. So in terms of deciding how wide to make my back brace, I have figured out for myself that I try to think of it as, okay, if this is getting slipped into my corset, which is how this is really like holding its structure and where it's going to be setting all day, what is going to feel the best for me? So I go wider than my spine, because then if this does happen to bend a little bit around, it's not going to hurt too bad. It's going to be pretty comfortable. So for me, that ends up being right around like 4.5, almost 5 inches in width. And then I just sort of think about, okay, where do I want these to sit in terms of up and out of my corset? So I just sort of eyeball it for myself, but you can totally like do your own measurements and figure out, like, if this is sitting inside your corset or inside of a belt or something like that, where do you want your wings to actually show them coming out of your shoulder blades or your back, or like above your shoulders and things like that. And then how wide is your spine itself, and where is that going to sit comfortably in the back of a corset. So funny enough, this particular pink film from Art Glitter, the fantasy film, is called Strawberry, but in certain lights, it clearly has like a very beautiful blue, green, teal tinge to it. And then when I have like actual light behind it, you can clearly see like the pink coming through. This is probably my favorite color that they have so far, at least that I've personally tried, and it's a brand new one that they just came out with, so I'm pretty happy with it. I definitely recommend that if you are interested in making your own fairy wings, checking this stuff out. It definitely has a very cool look to it, and yeah, I kind of want to make more stuff with it. It's super, super pretty. And this is the new corset. I'm pretty happy with how this one came out with all the embellishments and whatnot. I think I'm still gonna add some different pieces to it, like some rhinestones and some pearls and things, but overall I'm really happy with how the look came out. And if you're interested in the dress is actually from Doll's Kill. This is one of their fairy inspired dresses, and it's super cute. I feel like it goes pretty well with the outfit, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this fairy wing tutorial and the corset tutorial and all the stuff that I recently released on YouTube. And please remember to like, subscribe, post a positive comment, all the good stuff, and I will catch you next time. Now, before I dive into anxious about how far it has reached, just because I've never had a video go that right. Cutting out the veins, these are made from 4-ply Bristol board. 4-ply joints and things like that. But yeah, that's basically all. Hey, come back. No. Stop being such a butt. So my very first pair of fairy wing, damn it.